trigger warning. I'm just going to go and throw that out there right now. We are covering a lot of sexual assault material at this point. And it's going to begin with Matt Walsh, and I don't know which one of those requires a bigger trigger warning at this point, but let's go ahead and just show you. So, you know how the New York Times just did a big expose on how much the White House freaked out about the Epstein files getting released, and how much that really, really made them fucking panic? But we got that information, and that was fine. That was fantastic. It was good to know that they actually panicked a little bit, even though they thumped their chest all the goddamn time. But another bit of information that's coming out about that is the MAGA pivot. Now, if you're not familiar with the MAGA pivot is what happens when there is no way to defend the administration or Donald Trump anymore, and instead you have to pivot into something else. You have to engage in whataboutism. The MAGA pivot is a very, very easy to witness phenomenon because Trump does it himself. Remember when he was getting asked about Jeffrey Epstein all the time in news conferences, and he would say, are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? Are we still talking about that guy? That's the MAGA pivot. That is a signal to his base that the time has come to pivot away from giving two flying shits about Epstein and say that it doesn't really matter all that much. So, here is Matt Walsh engaging in the MAGA pivot. So, there is a big report that I actually have pulled up right here. We're going to look at that here in a little bit. We're not going to look at the entire thing because it's 219 pages, and I was only able to get through 173 of Project 2025, and this is likely to cause me more anger and more grief than that was, so we are going to do what we can as we are digging through it. But Matt Walsh says, this is approximately 1 million times worse than Epstein. It's not even remotely close. The scale, the nature of the crimes, the powerful institutions implicated, and yet something tells me that many of the Epstein obsessives will have nothing at all to say about this. And this has been the actual narrative that is being touted everywhere. Ian Miles Chung as well, saying, Asmongold is one of the only big streamers commenting on the rape gang inquiry. All of his haters and self-proclaimed feminists and defenders of women who are loud, obnoxious, and proud about their feminism are keeping silent. So, do you realize that you can be angry about something and not fucking talk about it on the internet? Do you know that you can be angry about one thing and not know about the other, and therefore be completely in the right and completely okay not talking about it? Like, ignorance is a thing. So let's go ahead and see what Asmongold is talking about.
Well, what do you do? What do you do in a situation like this? It's worse than Epstein, I know. It's infinitely worse than Epstein, because the thing is that no matter how bad Epstein is, he's only one person.
Incorrect. Incorrect, Asmon. The problem with Epstein, the biggest problem, wasn't that he was one guy who was all well-connected and all this bullshit. No. The scandal with Epstein was the fact that he trafficked the women to multiple people. The scandal with Epstein is how many powerful people partook in his island and his island's massages. Trying to dumb it down to it's just Jeffrey Epstein is being either woefully ignorant or actually trying to divert attention from what really happened and what really made people angry. Yes, Jeffrey Epstein was a monster and had a network made of monsters. But that network still needs to be disclosed. The fact that we have not had in the United States mass arrests in regards to what of that network we have been able to expose is the fucking scandal, Asmon. This is the MAGA pivot. This is always the MAGA pivot.
These people are like basically all of the worst accusations are like the actual events that happened inside of this. It's way worse, exactly. Not just say, think about it, you reach millions of people, you can't really set explicitly things. So you're mad that I'm like indicating that like I think that you should do extreme measures? Yeah, I'll make it very clear. I think that anybody that was involved in this should be put to the death penalty. Period. That's my perspective. I mean, it's very simple, actually. It's extremely simple. Like without a question, yeah, publicly, like that's it.
I'm somewhere between yes, they should have the death penalty, and no, I don't agree with the death penalty on principle. But I don't agree with the death penalty on principle because I believe in reform. But I believe when you have a network of children and you are trying to traffic them, I believe you are past the point of reform, and killing you is a form of self-defense. It's not a form of punishment. It is not a form of capital anything. It is a form at that point of victims protecting themselves from further pain.
And that, yeah, I mean, duh. I mean, what else is, like, I mean, you're literally ignoring a bunch of, like, little girls getting raped constantly over and over. Like, how is that not death penalty? Like, I mean, that's the only answer you could have.
So, that's the massively important reporting that Ian Miles Chung is proud of Asmund for. Sakura says the cost of executions is greater than the cost of holding someone for life. Right, but if you are a super well-connected person and you are actively trying to hurt more and more people, a bullet is very cheap. I did not say that the United States government or any government should be the ones to handle the execution. I understand the narrative of, like, holding a person for life is cheaper than public execution, or is cheaper than execution. I don't think it should be public execution. That's the other thing. I do not think that we as a society should fall into the barbarism of public executions being a thing that we normalize. I don't think so. I think that is just a fall into fucking barbarism. Said also the death penalty increases violent crime. Right, Sakura, I'm sorry, but I'm not arguing with you on this. I'm not arguing with you on this. If somebody sexually assaulted Saki, I would put a bullet in their fucking head. I'm sorry. That's where I'm coming from. I am not having this goddamn argument. That is simply where I am at. I know that has nothing to do with your position, but my position is this. Somebody sexually assaults somebody that I care about, that person finds out what it's like to be split in two. I don't give a shit. I will not have that argument, because it is a dumb fucking argument. I am not pro-death penalty generally, and that is a point and a stance I have made abundantly clear on my channel over and over again, and I'm not going to have to do that again. So, with all of that shit, let's go ahead and take a look at what we can in regards to this article. As gross and scary and shitty as it is likely to be. Jessica says, but when kids are involved, that's when it gets deadly. Yeah. Yeah. If you're a parent and your child is being sexually assaulted by somebody, you know, you already know what you would do. You don't have to vocalize it. But I know what you would do, and you know what you would do, and I think that's fine. Sarge Mar says, I know Mike could hate for this, but to help end the bathroom problem some people have over trans people, how about gendered bathrooms we have now? How about nothing but unisex bathrooms in public spaces? Yeah, I'm okay with unisex bathrooms. I don't think that's a problem. I think that's fine. Like, if each stall has privacy and you get rid of urinals, you just have stalls and all the stalls have privacy, then everybody is accommodated and everybody is fine. Like, you also can increase the amount of people that are in a bathroom at a time, which means you increase the safety of being in that bathroom because you have more witnesses. Okay, so, said honestly, just a row of single occupancy bathrooms would be better to me. There are also people who have purely unisex bathroom would impact. Okay, so, Fennec, the problem at that point is we are pretending that we live in a world with infinite space, and we are pretending that all buildings have infinite space. Because by having to put a wall in between each one instead of just having the stalls, you are not economically using the space there. Like, I think unisex bathrooms are fine. I really do. That said, I said the bigger issue would be the plumbing. Yeah, when you start adding solid walls into everything, you create a billion points of failure. Somebody did do the Grok explain thing, And I actually am going to let it do that here real quick because this is a 200-some-odd page document. I have to. Fennec says Muslim women performing wudu for prayer would disagree. They have to partially uncover and can't do that in front of men. Right, so you go into a stall? Like, just go into the stall. Just use a stall. Like, I do not think that you should need to worry about people's religion in regards to the vacuum. Said the stall needs a sink. Have you never seen stalls with sinks? Fennec, no. The handicap stall almost always has a sink. You would use the handicap stall that has the sink. What? We're adding textures for problems that don't need to be there. I'm sorry. We have solutions for this already in place. If we unisexed all the bathrooms and we made sure that there were sinks in the handicap stalls, which a lot of places already have them, not all handicap stalls have... Yeah, I understand that. Fennec says, I haven't seen a handicap stall with a sink in years. I have, so it's my local Walmart has them. Like, I'm sorry, but if we can all agree that unisex bathroom is fine, as long as it has the accommodations required, then all of this argument is just pedantic autistic nonsense. And trust me, as a Sonic the Hedgehog fan, I love pedantic autistic nonsense. I adore it. I play Magic the Gathering, a game filled to the brim with nothing but pedantic autistic nonsense. But I don't think I'm gonna let myself get stuck in the fucking weeds on this when we are talking about goddamn rape. Okay? I'm done on there. So apparently, according to the summary that Grok gave, the Rape Gang Inquiry Report details a systematic child sexploitation by predominantly Pakistani heritage Muslim men targeting vulnerable white British girls. Key findings were that there were 250,000 victims estimated since the 1950s. 87 to 95% of perpetrators were Muslim in analyzed cases. Grooming via drugs, alcohol, taxis, gang rapes, trafficking, blackmail, and racial religious abuse. Massive institutional failures by police, councils, and services driven by political correctness and fear of racism. Accusations, ethnicity/religion data were often unrecorded. Links to clan honor codes and Islamic theological attitudes towards non-Muslims cited. Harrowing survivor testimonies included. Okay, so interesting. Political correctness. I don't know if I necessarily agree that that's why, but political correct. Let's see here. Okay. Said the Rape Gang Inquiry was survivor-led. Every day the panel sat with Sammy Woodhouse, a survivor-turned-activist herself, alongside a variety of experts who attended whenever their specialist subject formed the focus of our efforts to get the truth. We examined distinct areas of the scandal in turn so that maximally full picture could be established. Parents and carers described their experiences. Instances of pregnancy, abortion, and children born of rape were laid bare. Whistleblowers who had previously been ignored gave evidence. Police and justice failures were documented. Social care, NHS services, including sexual health and mental health, education, taxi licensing, demographic trends, cultural and social issues, and ideological obstructions to justices were all scrutinized without restriction. Nothing was off the table. Misguided political correctness and cultural sensitivities played no part in the proceedings. Wait, hold on. Grok, that's not what you said here. You dumb fucking thing. You said that political correctness was one of the reasons that the information didn't get out. But when I read the actual document, the actual words of the document, it specifically says that political correctness was not part of the proceedings. What? Grok context? So it's just Grok being a racist fool? Right, so here's what I think is really happening. The people who are focusing on this are likely going to end up pivoting, or have already pivoted, to the Muslim part of this as opposed to the rape part of this. Like how, to be fair, like how a lot of atheists would do for the Catholic Church, similarly, they're going to see this as an issue with the religion, which is incorrect. It is a problem not with the religion specifically. It is a problem with institutions that are backed by it. So, like, Catholicism, the religion, is not the thing raping children. The Pope, the diocese, the ones who are shuffling rapist priests to Chile so that they can still do, I don't know, right by God while they diddle more kids. That's the actual problem. The religion itself just happens to be where they are. But like how we saw this happen with the Catholic Church, we can see this happen with this as well. We can see it happen for religious reasons. We can see it happen for non-religious reasons. But because right-wingers really like to associate Muslim people with being brown and being different, and if you grew up in the aughts with being terrorists, then you're going to use any excuse at that point. There's 3 more instances of political correctness in this document. Let's see what it says here. A citation. Labor-dominated councils and MPs were briefed on the gangs long ago, yet later denied knowledge. The party prioritized electoral reliance on Muslim voting blocs, and then blocked or watered down inquiries, suppressed ethnicity data, and framed legitimate concerns as far-right agitation. When finally forced to act, the Labour government produced a national inquiry whose tightly drawn terms of reference deliberately excluded systematic examination of the demographic, cultural, and religious drivers. The Conservative Party, while in government, continued with Labour's approach. So it's politicians wanting power that's the problem there. How fucking funny. The Conservative Party, while in government, continued with Labour's approach and failed to impose any mandatory ethnicity recordings or launch a full statutory inquiry, despite clear evidence from Rotherham and elsewhere. Scottish political parties have refused a dedicated inquiry and failed to record offender ethnicity. Political correctness, fear of accusations of racism, and fear of losing electoral support from certain demographics have taken precedent over the protection of British children. Okay, so there is where Grok is pulling that from. The idea, but even then, is that... At that point, my question would be, is that hyperbolization on the part of the author of this? Or is that an actual thing that was happening? Because even then, like, the information here might not necessarily lean the way that Grok is trying to argue it does. Let's go to the National Inquiry. This is on page 146. The Labour government's so-called independent inquiry into grooming gangs, announced in December 2025 and chaired by Baroness Anne Longfield, is a masterclass in institutional evasion. Its draft terms of reference, finalized in March 2026, deliberately confine the scope of the group-based child sexual exploitation and abuse in a handful of relevant local areas. The inquiry is explicitly time-limited, targeted, and proportionate, and framed as an exercise in examining failures in practice and obstruction by statutory services. There is no mandate to examine the national scale of the problem, the overwhelming ethnic and religious profile of the perpetrators, the honor and shame-based cultural drivers, or the role of political correctness and electoral cynicism in allowing the abuse to flourish for decades. So, wait, so in only one area of here, which could have been hyperbolized, does it say anything about political correctness being a cause? And in one area, it says political correctness had nothing to do with the committee hearings. And in another area, it's just saying, hey, why aren't you looking into political correctness as being the reason that the rape happened? Like, what? All right, nope, we're not looking at the Grok summary. The Grok summary is fucking stupid. We will still look at it because now we know things that we need to scan through the document for. Jesus Christ. Okay, there's something I need to check, though. Okay, so I'm already fairly certain that I was right on the money, that they're just going to start saying that this is Muslims and this is all because of Muslims. This is a Muslim problem because Muslims are Muslim. Because the foreword begins with Britain doesn't have a racism problem, it has an immigration problem. I am beginning to doubt the efficacy of this document because it is quite politically charged already. Your forward is let's just go and say what it is. It's a fucking racist statement. And then as I go through, when I looked at the political correctness thing, it's the document's mad that people didn't look into political correctness the way that you thought they should. Okay. Orla points out that our immigration rate is actually the lowest it's been in decades. Yeah, but until all the brown people are gone, you know that they're not going to think that's the case. So Sammy Woodhouse is one of the people who led this inquiry, and Sammy Woodhouse is the one who Sammy's Law was named after. Sammy's Law is a law that pardons any child sexual abuse victim for crimes that they were coerced into committing by the people who were fucking with them. The bill was supported by a lot of people, and that is okay. I can understand that if you are coerced because somebody has power over you and they are going to kill you otherwise, like, your options are death or do crime. Like, it's very, very hard to say that you are going to be the person perpetuating that again. Okay, but, okay, so Woodhouse supports Sammy's law, but Sammy's law isn't actually a law. It's a bill that has been tried to be pushed. Sammy is also a member of the right-wing political party Restore Britain, and Restore Britain is a fascist movement? Interesting. Hold on. Okay, so one of the primary people on the inquiry team here is part of Restore Britain, which is a right-wing to far right-wing political party led by Rupert Lowe, which, of course, it had a foreword from Rupert Lowe in the beginning. So, of course, it's going to be quoting Rupert Lowe. The organization was launched as a pressure group in June 2025, and then as a political party in February of 2026. It presents itself as an umbrella organization for local grassroots groups and has been labeled as more right-wing than Reform UK on the political spectrum. Lowe was elected to Parliament for Reform, but formally left the party after public disputes with its leadership and criticisms of Nigel Farage. The party advocates for large-scale deportation of people in the United Kingdom without legal status, including having net negative immigration. The party wants to have a referendum on reinstating the death penalty, seeks withdrawing public funding from the BBC, banning burqa and niqab, banning people from even wearing religious garments? Oh, hold on. Guys, all the information in this is fucking tainted. Every single bit of this is tainted info. Huh. Okay, well, who else here? Nat Etterby Shenton. Who are you? Because I am not familiar with you. Who is... okay, cool. Nat Etterby Shenton, Rotherham whistleblower, engagement in safeguarding, lead for the rape gang inquiry, 22 years experience in children and family safeguarding. So he's had a huge privilege of working alongside the man for the past 3 years. Okay, so what do we know about you at all? If anything here. Okay, so most of that looks like it's just person who is proud to be part of this. All right, so who then is Marlon West? Okay, so this is Marlon West. Says this is his testimony. The father of a rape gang survivor.
But she was great. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, she was an angel, she was amazing, because she really wasn't, because she was a character. Unfortunately, I'll never see that again. Because what happened to her completely destroyed all that personality.
Okay, so father of victim was harmed by rape gangs. Rape gangs destroyed their mentality, and I mean, that makes sense. If you are an individual who is being assaulted, it rips away every single bit of who you are. Okay, so if we are at the point where it's people who are talking on the report because they have had experience with this, their testimony definitely works. Their testimony is definitely wanted, because if you are a parent of somebody who is sexually assaulted, the one thing that you likely want is your child to have that harm undone. The second thing you want is the person who, sexually assaulted them fucking killed. Okay. So this is a complicated issue. It shouldn't be a complicated issue, because it should be as easy as, hey, if there actually is a rapist network, then that rapist network needs to be exposed and needs to be handled the exact same way that we need to be doing with the Epstein network. But I understand why Asbin was talking about this now, and why Matt Walsh was talking about this now, because it's a far right-wing, potentially even fascist party in the UK that is pushing the information specifically, and that leads me to believe that all the information is tainted. I want to just That also explains why the report says that, like, political correctness allowed rape to continue happening. Like, it makes sense that that's in the report because of where the report is coming from. Switzerland says all conservatives are the whitey Taliban. Orla says, what do you think happens when you need cap a group of people that are responsible for a third of economic spending? For every pound that gets into the hand of a disabled person, it hits the economy positively by 2. It saves 3 to 5 from public services. Okay, but hold on. Orla, are you going on a rant that is entirely separate from any conversation anybody else is having again? Because, like, go off, but also, I think that's what's happening. That said, I don't want this to be something that is complicated just because the people who are responsible for this about what their politics are, because whether somebody's right or left, if they say something that is true, that thing is true irrespective of their political affiliation. Orla says, oh no, I'm talking about what reform wants to do and its effects. Okay. Gotcha. But at the same time, when I see a big report like this, it feels like it's the motherless thing again a little bit. Because with Motherless, it was a anti-porn activist blowing things out of proportion so that she could get porn banned on a mass scale. And with this, it looks like it's people who desperately want to make all of the brown people get kicked out of the United Kingdom. Like, they literally want negative immigration. They want not only no people coming in, but they want to actively be kicking everybody out. I feel like going through this report would be a struggle for me because the entire time I'm going to be fighting with the fact that the information in the report is written by people who are going to do the Black Book of Communism thing. They're going to do the thing where they have a big number and they are going to do everything in their power to justify that number because the goal is not actually protecting victims. Like, that's the thing that fucking frustrates me about this. Because this is written by a political party. That's why it's written by multiple people. And it's written by a political party that wants to get rid of all the fucking brown people in the United Kingdom. It's never going to read to me as something that is indicative of trying to do the best by the victims. It's going to read to me as the victims being used as a weapon to deport brown people, or the parents that had to suffer through watching their children either die or be fundamentally changed as broken people, using them as a weapon. Bohemian says, so this is a case of a small part of a group people did bad, so all the group is bad? Yes. That's what it looks like. In no way, shape, and form can I sit here and try to say, like, aha, all Muslims are good, because that would be stupid. Just like all Christians aren't good, all atheists aren't good, all Muslims aren't good, and there are aspects of the misogynistic culture that are built into both Christianity and Islam, and if you do not have that religion being dragged kicking and screaming into the modern day, which Islam largely hasn't been, not on the mass scale that Christianity has, you do end up with the issue where there will be parts of that culture that do not mesh with cultures that might not tolerate certain behaviors. And the behavior here looks like it's exploitation of children or exploitation of women. But again, that is not representative of everybody who is Muslim. But they're literally going to use the document so that they can say, behold, a group of Muslims did a thing, and that is bad. So now all the Muslims get damaged because of it. Like, what? No. If that's the case, then every single billionaire, all of them, every single one, and every millionaire, every single one of them too, all need to immediately be thrown in jail or killed because of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I do believe that the world would become a better place when we did that, but at the same time, that would be fallacious. And this is fallacious. So while it is trying to report on massive institutional failures by police and trying to argue that political correctness is the reason that they failed, I feel like some of this may be large organizations just paying off police. Because so often that's the case. People with the type of influence to have 100,000 victims, like, that's a cartel. And cartels have the money to pay off the cops and politicians and everything. So, national scandal that has a whole bunch of shit wrapped in it, where people are going to use this as an argument against multiculturalism, when actually all this means... Okay, so think about it this way. You have one side of this that is going to say, deport all the Muslims to save the UK kids. And then there's the other side of this that goes, well, wouldn't you rather people actually be assimilated into society and change? Like, if you just deport them all, they just go do this somewhere else, and they go do it in a place where it is more likely that they will get away with it. I feel like you should take the people specifically who have been responsible and put them in jail and put them to trial and do the things that the justice system is supposed to do, as opposed to just deporting all the Muslims, because that's what this is. Like a handful of digging through the document, looking at the quotations, looking at what it's trying to do, and the fact that it is a massive doc of all this, it reads as fucking corrupted data. And I hate that, because I feel like that takeaway doesn't do any fucking justice to the victims who actually did get hurt here, because there are real victims that this talks about. But I can't stop thinking about the fucking authorship. Jesus fucking Christ. So, somebody posted in here, or somebody tried to ask Grok, hey, based on what happened, which political parties likely knew what was happening and did nothing? Grok says local labor council leaders did this, but what it doesn't seem to say here is the fact that when the Conservative Party took over after Labour, they did the same thing. Like, we read that in the document. That's in this video. Grok is just going to be favoring the way to look at this that's racist. And that feels fucking stupid. That is where I'm going to have to leave this off for now. And then this is probably something that we're going to have to talk about multiple times. We are probably going to have to do multiple videos on this as we actually dig into this. But the first part of this is digging into the authorship and my problems immediately with how this is likely going to be utilized because of the authorship. There is a reason that Ian Miles Strong is talking about it. There's a reason that Matt Walsh is talking about it. There's a reason Asman is talking about it, and that is because the people who made it specifically made it to get brown people deported. Whether or not the information in here is correct, that was the goal. And that is the part that I am frustrated with. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagittarius, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.